anyone will show up because this is a random time. I could really use some help getting on a schedule again. I could really use a friend and real fellowship. Please always remember that much of my story is a cautionary story. I share it in an effort to try and do my part because I believe what we are facing in these times, we have not faced in our lifetime. And I believe, well, I know that to be true. I don't just believe it. And I know that we are loved. And I know that there's a lot of strange things happening that sometimes might seem like they defy explanation. But if you're willing to search and seek out the answers, in most cases, not all, but in most cases, you will find the answer. But you have to be open to it because oftentimes it might not be the answer that you want. Let me turn the comments on to make sure they are on. I'd like to get started because this could get lengthy. It could end up being a few videos. We'll see how it goes. I don't know what you already know, so I'm going to go over a little background for this game. This is an RPG game. We are not playing it. I cannot stress that enough. We are only checking it out, investigating it, looking at it, reading some of it. We are not actually participating in it. I do not promote the participation in such a game, and I'll explain that on as we go. This will probably be a good video that will contain maybe little gemstones and nuggets on consent and the spirit realm. I don't have all the answers. I don't even have some or most of the answers, but I do have a few of them from personal experience. You are able to scientifically test spiritual matters, and again, people aren't always open to the answers that they receive when they put forth a hypothesis. They don't always want the answer that's correct, let me say. Sometimes we want research that will back up our own biases. So I do my best not to allow that to happen. So I want to preface this video by saying it's a big part of my testimony, not this game per se, but the topic. I know where I stand on it. I know why I stand where I stand on it. And that is also one of the intentions of this channel, is to bring forth some of these spiritual matters and the false teachers that put forth certain messages that I do know to be false. And I know this because if anyone checks into these things for themselves, and I think that's it. Like, we've gotten lazy. We don't want to do our own homework anymore. But if you want answers, that's what you got to do. I try to save y'all time, and I bring these things forward when I find them. Anyone who's heard my story knows that I met a person who literally told me he was a fallen one. He was, among other things, he did tattoos, and he was from LA. He actually had a pilot show. That is a big part of my testimony. Someone telling me that they were one of the fallen. Do I believe that he was, or was he definitely? That I don't know. But I will tell you, there's a personal testimony that goes with the teeth video. Remember, we've talked about that a lot, and if you've missed it, this channel does build on previous videos. And no, you don't have to sit through like 11 hours, of my chirpy voice, right? Annoying you. You can just skim through, and a lot of times I leave the links where I find things in the description. Hi guys, I hope you guys are doing well. Don't worry, most of my videos can be played in the background. Again, I try to bring forth little nuggets of information, and I call them nuggets because I do believe they are gold nuggets. And I believe if everybody shared their own personal testimonies, because we test things that way as well, as through our personal testimonies. And so, oh yeah, I hope everyone had a nice Thanksgiving. Holidays aren't the same for me as they used to be. So I don't really talk about it a lot. So I'm just going to continue. We're able to scientifically test certain things, whether or not they're true or false, and whether or not we can know them. And that can be done with spiritual matters. People think science and spirituality don't go together, that they absolutely can and oftentimes do. The truth isn't one thing or another, and oftentimes it is both. But the truth is often wrapped in lies or hidden purposely in this realm. So what are we getting into today? Well, first, again, if you're not into the Bible, you might not be a Christ follower. I don't need to be at this channel. Hold up. I see things a little differently than most Christians. Everyone here is welcome. I will, though, continue to expose spirits of wickedness, and I will refrain from throwing human beings under the bus by mentioning names, unless it gets detrimental and it needs to be done for the case of my testimony. But we reference back to biblical text because we are testing it to see if it is true. So if you are new here, if you're from the Reddit crowd, it will be a little different than most other Christ-following Christian-like channels. I do believe in science, and again, I oftentimes don't think truth is one or the other. Oftentimes it is both. So what are we looking at here? Again, this is to give you background on where the Nephilim lore came from. Where did it grow from? Where did it stem from? Where are its roots? Well, as with many things, it is in the Bible. I did not believe the Bible. I was raised a Catholic, but we weren't really, the Bible itself was not pushed on us. By the time I was raised in Catholicism, it was Vatican II, and it was a bit different. That does not mean I eschew traditional beliefs, because the crazier the world gets, it seems like the straighter and more boring and lame I get. Quite the plain Jane lately. So we want to look at where this lore originated, right? What are its origins? What is the origin story of the Nephilim? Sammy, you are so loud. I really need some noise canceling headphones, so any suggestions in the comment section would be amazing. And then you don't have to hear Sammy slurping his peanut butter or chewing on, I don't even know what that is. I don't even want to, because I try not to eat animals, and yeah, so. Anyways, the origin story for Nephilim can be found in the Bible. Now, it is presumed, and it's actually a scientific guess, it's a really good guesstimate, that these same stories are in Sumerian texts and all over the world. So, again, the biggest part of research on this job is translation and transliteration. Translation and transliteration are not the same things. If you're going backwards, right? If you're trying to go back and say, okay, the New Testament was written in Greek, okay? And in English, or using the English alphabet, it's written in Latin. All right. What was it before that? Well, it was Hebrew and Aramaic, right? Before that. So transliteration, going backwards, is a little bit different than translating something into your own language. You want to go back to find the most original terminology, right? Because today we have so many different words for so many different things, and it was not always like that. So let's get to work here. That's enough rambling. 8 minutes. It's always about 8 minutes. If you like the topic of the video, please do consider giving it a thumbs up. It's such a small channel, it probably won't do much for the channel itself. It just lets me know if you guys are into these topics and if I relay them in somewhat of an understandable manner, because if I don't, I can how I relay this information to y'all. I just learned the difference between the two myself. I love learning, just like you. That's awesome. Yeah, transliteration and translation are two completely different things, so it can take a little extra footwork. Oftentimes people, in reading the New Testament, will go straight back to Hebrew or Aramaic, well, because that's what Jesus spoke. Yes, but Jesus did not write the New Testament. Other people wrote the New Testament, and we have to keep that in mind too. So with Genesis 6, this is the beginning, right? And it's this version of the Bible app that I've pulled up, it actually gives like little intros. You won't find this like in your older Bibles, but some of them, I mean, my Catholic Bible's from 1960, and I have footnotes that I can highlight, kind of translations, but also interpretations. Now that's the problem here, is we're facing an interpretational issue. So let me read this to you. And it came to pass when men began to multiply, meaning they had families, on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were fair, and they took them wives, of all which they chose. Excuse me. All right, let me say that this has something to do with my testimony too, and I'm not going to tell you how or why. I'm just going to say I know for a fact what this means. Sorry, I had to get a little drink. They took them wives of all which they chose. It does not say they courted them. And now, as much as people want to say, you know, the Bible is vague, maybe in spiritual matters it can get a little esoteric because not everybody is meant to understand it. We are told that parables cannot be understood by the Nephilim, that they cannot interpret parables. Basically, if you use an analogy, right, if you compare a woman to a ship or a car or a church, they're not going to understand what that parable is. That's why there's a part of me that actually does believe in the singular bride of Christ, because it would be a hidden parable. So, and oftentimes each verse means it ripples out, right? There's a, you see, what is it called? Parallelism, okay? In which, like, you'll see, all right, if you picture a pebble dropping into a lake and you picture the water rippling outward, right? So the first most basic translation is what you look at, and then the second or third one out would be the parallelism. Like, you might have somebody named Zeus in this text, and then in the same place with the same number, you'll see another character with the name Zeus. Things like that ripple outward, and that's what I mean when I talk about that. So they took them wives of all which they chose. Took. This was against consent. They did not wait for their consent. Now, I know I'm big on consent. There's a reason for that, though. It doesn't mean that your consent is always going to be obeyed, but it does mean, that God, the Father, will know if something happens against your will. And then, because they've broken natural law in that way, they have to deal with the recompense or the flashback from such antics, right? So they took the wives of which they chose. That means they took them. They took them. They did not ask for permission. How would you... And it also says wives. It doesn't say women. It says wives. Okay? Now, why do you suppose that it says wives? I'm trying to figure out which one of these I wanted to go to first. And it is this one. It says wives because they took women who were already married to men, to human men, without their consent, without their knowledge. Why? Because they came down and either inhabited the bodies of their husbands, so they, it was the same body, or they manifested into a body that looks the same as their husbands. Now, again, I don't know the logistics of all this, exactly how it works, but I know that to be true. I know they took women who were already married, and they took them against their knowledge and consent, and that they can look exactly like these women's husbands. Again, exactly how this occurs, I don't know. I just know that it does occur. You don't have to believe me. And we went over this, and I'm seeing videos about it everywhere. Let me just rant for like 20 seconds. We were talking in the last live stream about one of the last 2 or 3 live streams, and we were talking about oh shoot, I keep losing track of what I want to say because my dog was yipping for a second there. My senior one, he's old and on his way out, so I try to, I have the time, so I do cater to my little fellow friends, my furry friends. So I wanted to rant for a second because we were talking about this, about how there were more than, there's quite a big group of us, a large group of people who believe that something happened to humanity around 2017, 2018, that a whole lot of people changed. I believe that they used TV to cover up that fact. They wanted to use whatever we were afraid of to keep us tucked away indoors and not seeing for ourselves with our own eyes what's actually happening out there, and trusting this basically psychological warfare that's occurring on the screens. And again, all my disclaimers are in the description box. So if you have a problem with any part of this video, you can check there. Everything is shared per the Fair Use Act. I'm going to bring him some water so he's more comfortable. He can't see, so I have to kind of do a lot for him. Hey, you're okay. You're okay. Stop it, please. So that kind of, I was like ranting, like, because it's called capybara syndrome, where a person believes that someone in their life, loved ones, were replaced by imposters. Now, they did not come up with a name for this syndrome until later. Please remember, there is no chemical or blood test for things like schizophrenia, mania. Those things have no test. Much love to you, Dion. Nice to see you, man. So glad you're here always. So, I wanted to ramble about that for a second because we were talking about it. Now, if you do a search on YouTube for capybara syndrome, it is literally everywhere, okay? It is all over the place now, ever since the video where we talked about that. I think it was like 2 or 3 live streams ago. But check it out. So capybara syndrome, no, that's not what I'm talking about. I think they use a lot of different things to cover up the same beings. These beings don't want your attention. They don't want you necessarily to know that they're here until they're ready. In Egypt, they really like to be worshipped, and now you're seeing all the Egyptian stuff come back too. So a little more background. Oh, the other thing. You guys know I love Brett Cooper, and you guys know that ever since my original channel, I've told you that comments are a part of our ministry too, because they have staying power, right? Your comments will remain as long as nobody's going behind you and deleting them all. So your comments are a part of your ministry. So I really like Brett Cooper, and I just realized, hey, her channel is called Brett Cooper, the comment section. And you guys know I love Snow White. Like, that's just my story. I'm not one of them people who tears down things like Disney and whatnot. I try to show the light. I try to show that they do have goodness in them. Because there's enough people pointing out wickedness. And what does Satan do? Well, he's the accuser of the brethren, right? And now you have all kind of people accusing priests of doing a really nasty, nefarious deed that I'm not even sure if that exists in the way that people think it does. I don't know that that's possible. And I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me. I've been taken advantage of in that way, violated in that way. It's a very serious matter. I'm talking about very small children. I think there's a lot of lies happening and a lot of accusations, so I try not to do that on this channel. But if I see someone is truly hurting the body of Christ, I will mention their name. But let's move on. So, Nephilim, what are they? They are allegedly the offspring that occurred between women and angel when they gave up their estate and they floated down and inhabited these men. Now, if you look, it's wrote about as well in Jude. I didn't think I knew my Bible, like the verse numbers and stuff, but it's not bad. Okay, so he gives his greetings and salutations, and then he talks about judgments on false teachers, okay? I personally believe that these false teachers are also Nephilim. I believe that their main job at this point is to corrupt man. And not all of them. There might be a few good ones who have found their heart or whatever, and they might actually have a fondness for man and decide that even though they're going to lose, or even though that they may not be saved, they might actually want to help mankind. I believe there are some like that. But they're the ones who are organized, the big groups who know who they are, because a lot of us don't know who we are in this game, and it can be detrimental. But don't let it affect you too over much, right? You have the talents and skills that you have because God knew you would need them. So it says there are certain men that crept in unawares who were before old ordained to this condemnation. It says they were ordained to condemnation. What does that mean when you're ordained to condemnation? It means it's already been decided. Your judgment has already been passed. Now, I want to know, does it say men in all the verses? KJV, there are certain men, certain people, certain men. Is that German? I don't know what that is. I'm sorry. Certain people, men. I'm going to look in my physical Bible too. I have one from like 1918. And I want to see if it actually says men there. What version am I on? Hello. Okay, that's not the one I wanted. Why do you keep taking my Catholic Bible away? This makes me not happy with you. All right, does this say men? See, and then in the Catholic Bible, you'll see the KJV with Apocrypha that I had pulled up. It's a more modern one, so it'll give you a little intro into each book as well. I just pulled up the Catholic one, and this one is Jude. And you don't have that header, right? It's not telling you how to interpret that following section. It says there are certain men entered unnoticed who were written of beforehand unto this judgment, impious persons who are transforming the grace of our God into self-indulgence and who are denying both the sole ruler and our Lord Jesus Christ. Hi, sun, moon, and water. And now here we go. And truly the angels who did not keep their first place, but instead abandoned their own domiciles, he has reserved with perpetual chains under darkness until the great day of judgment. So until the day of judgment, the angels, the actual original angels who fell, are chained up. So everyone's saying that they're still out there causing trouble. They're not. However, their children are. It says the Nephilim will walk the earth. That will be their curse, that the Nephilim will walk the earth. Let me see if I can find it. And they shall be called evil spirits. And I believe since 2017, what we are facing is an attempt at a mass invasion, a mass second incursion of these Nephilim spirits, the progeny of the fallen angels and human women. And I also believe that somehow the genetics of these people has survived. I believe the giant gene has been recessive, meaning it went away generation through generation. But they are still Nephilim. Half angel, half human. Strong hold. There is another school of thought from Protestants. This is one of if you want to know why Protestantism separated from Catholicism, I'll give you the three main reasons right now. And I don't care what their books say. I know because I've been in both. And you can see, again, it's not in what people say or what they do. It's in what they don't say and what they don't do. And it's in their mannerisms and reactions, right? And it's in the tone. If someone is telling you truth, it will ring true. Where do we get that from? Where do we get that cliche? Because we have inner tuners. We are truth tuners. We are frequency tuners, just like you see when people go out and they look for water, right? That's what we have on the inside. So we know when someone is telling us truth. It's there. It doesn't need defended, though we do defend it. It will stand on its own. So there is one school of thought. And basically, when Martin Luther left, and it was because, number one, he wanted to get married. That's lust. His lust was driving him. He didn't understand that when you are a priest, you are literally married to the church. It's not that marriage is bad per se. It is because the men of the cloth have to be pure. They're taking confession. Why do you think they are accusing so many priests right now? And the ones that they are accusing the loudest are probably the ones who are most pious, because Satan does not want them in the church. Satan wants in that church. That is the last church, literally almost, to fall. And that's the thing. Catholicism was the original church. All right. It was the original teachings. If you want to know the origin of something, you have to literally go back to the beginning. And this Christianity we have today is not true Christianity. Although back then that's not what it was called, because Christ had not died yet. So the waters do get muddy, right? So one reason he left was for lust. The second reason was because of Mary, Mother Mary. They did not want to bow down to a female. And it boils down to that, plain and simple. I don't personally care how many fundamentalists come after me for saying that. The women in their heart know that what I'm saying is true. And no, I'm not like one of them people down with the patriarchy, although I do think we need a great upheaval and change. I do believe there's a place for tradition. I think this takes a lot of balance, right? And whoever is in charge, I would definitely not want it to be me, because it's a lot of decision making that I am not good at. So the second reason they left, the first was for lust, the second was because of Mary, and the third reason, I believe, is because they were literally Nephilim. They were the progeny of women and fallen angels. And they want to mislead us. They want us mistaught. I wanted to show you this briefly before we start the game. How far are we in? Trust me, I'll keep this as short as possible. The game, we don't have to go through the whole thing, all right? I just want to give people a background, and I found a few good resources for showing you guys a couple of things. Is the question here, and it's locked, you can't comment anymore, and I found it interesting where they locked it. Again, guys, pay attention to things, not the things you are told to pay attention to, not the things we learned in grade school. Look at the hidden things. Now, this question was locked, and it's interesting where it was locked. So, the question was Noah's flood intended to kill the Nephilim? Just a question. I find it to be strange that the giant narrative of Genesis 6 has apparently nothing to do with the deluge. My assumption has always been that the flood was intended to kill off the Nephilim. How true is this? It definitely seems to be the belief found in the book of Enoch. So I'm not sure where he found what resource he's reading that says it wasn't because of them, but let's continue. I suspect the Nephilim were a problem because they became something close to rival gods on earth. This is why Yahweh saw the need to have them killed. Michael Heiser has shown that the violence inflicted on the inhabitants of Canaan during the Israelite conflict seems primarily directed at the Nephilim descendants, and that is true. Our God is not a homicidal God, all right? There were things happening like cannibalism. That is a serious infraction, and it makes people go mad. You will get kurus, and personally, I honestly think, I'm not a doctor. If you need any of that type of advice, seek out your chosen professional. It's all in the description, okay? It is my opinion that, let's see, what was I going to say there? That they were cannibals, that they were trying to corrupt mankind and feeding us Soylent Green. I think the same is happening today. That had a lot to do with why I turned away from eating beef, as they call it in the stores. That was one of the reasons God sent the flood, was because when things like that happen, there is no redemption after that. You have to kind of start over and reset. Cannibalism will corrupt not just the person doing that, right, but people around them unknowingly as well. So that's a big problem, and it will literally cause what we know to be at this time. It will cause true insanity. And I don't mean people like me believing in angels and demons. I don't mean that kind of insane. I mean insane to the point where they don't care about who they do harm, okay? That's my feeling of it right now. If I get more information, I will obviously take that into account. Michael Heiser seemed like a good man. All these people are dying at very suspect times. The other guy who was the deliverance guy, Russ Dizdar, I reached out to him, and he literally died like a week or two after I sent him an email. Ron, the guy Rob that talked about Gilgamesh being reincarnated as the Antichrist. Again, some of these men are false teachers. They're not all. There's a reason they were taken out of the game at this time. Some people are taken out, and they are God's children, and they are taken out because they completed their mission. Others are taken out because they've hit the limit of what God's tolerance for them misleading the flock. And I know you're going to disagree with me, but I think you guys might ask, well, how could there be a mass incursion of these things, of these spiritual entities, these lower level frequency entities attaching to and possessing human beings? How could that happen? Well, the proof is in the pudding. Number one, look around you. Every agenda you're seeing pushed right now is anti-human. And if you're scared, that's probably a good thing. That's the first step, is fear. You have to be shocked out of your complacency. That's what I needed. As sad to say as it was, there was very little that was probably going to wake me up. I was done. I was tapped out. I had no energy. I didn't care what I did. I didn't care how it looked to other people. I didn't care who I hurt. I mean, I was bad off, guys. Now you know me. This is me. This is who I am. But when the second that you get on that slippery slope of transgression, the second that you do that, it is so easy to fall into these other places. And so I believe that God did that not because he was genocidal or homicidal, but because he had to stop what was taking place. So I just thought this was interesting. We're going to go over it real quickly and then we'll get to the game. So these are different people commenting on that question. Take this for whatever it's worth, but when I was an unbeliever, I was told, just like Adam and Eve, the demons knew of the coming of Christ to be the world's savior. And I actually agree with part of this, and I'll tell you why. So the fallen angels attempted to thwart this by tainting the bloodline that would eventually bring Christ into the world. That's exactly right. They might have saw that women were fair, but Satan's main... And understand this too. I've been coming into some new information that the ones who fell with him aren't all with him anymore. They're not all in allegiance with the main deceiver, with Satan, with the fallen Lucifer, whatever name he goes by. They're not all in league with him any longer, okay? Some of them love their families or their children, and they don't want them to just be born to die. And that's what Satan's army was doing, basically. And it's in all of our entertainment, if you just are willing to look, the Clone Wars, that's what that's all about. No, I don't believe they're in clones, and I'll go over that in a whole different video. Oh, Michelle, I didn't know he hung out with Milo. I might make a separate video on my own reaction to Michael Voorhees, but I don't like to do things that are clicky or trendy. I don't want people to think I'm just doing it for whatever. But you guys know I've been kind of on their back, church militant. For a few months now, I've mentioned them in live streams. I love Christine Niles, but I did not care for Voorhees. I thought his segments of the show were jock-like, and I didn't care for that. And I didn't care for how much he seemed to be like trying to tear down the Catholic Church itself. Again, false teachers. That's my opinion. I prayed for the guy. I included him in my rosary last night, actually. I'm not bragging. I'm trying to encourage others to do the same, right? If you think that there's something wrong with me, if you think I'm snotty or arrogant or conceited or cocky or vain, or you think that I'm prideful, well, then don't pick at me, pray for me, right? Let's stop picking at people and pray for them. But I had no idea he was hanging out with Milo. Yeah, I don't, and people loved him. Oh, he did, he made that channel. If you look at Church Militant, dude, like they literally seem to be wanting to tear apart the Catholic faith. All these people on YouTube, all these, and it's most of the channels now, that's all they do is promote gossip. That's all exposed videos are, is us gossiping. And gossiping is sinful. And that's all social media is now. You post a picture, you brag about your hairstyle, you brag about your makeup, you let your boobs hang out a little too much. I know, I can say these things because I'm talking about myself. I'm talking about me. I'm not looking at other people and saying, oh, look what they're doing, oh, look what this one's doing. I'm telling you what I used to do and how far I fell just from taking pictures of myself. I never used to let anyone take my picture. The second I started selling makeup and taking my picture, it was over. Like I was lost that quick and that easy to, and the funny thing is you have very low self-esteem. When you come across arrogant or whatever, it's like fake it till you make it, right? Other people might think I'm that way, but I have very low self-esteem in certain areas. Michelle says, I don't even think he knew what he was doing. I'm not gossiping. It's sad that another was lost. I pray he repents again. I don't think he even knew what he was doing. Oh, right. He knew not what he did. That I don't know. And I can't say because I don't know the intentions of another man's heart. But as far as his work did, as far as what his work did, that's what, excuse me, I got to turn off the fan in the other room. That's what the Bible told us to do from the beginning, right, guys? It told us to judge by the fruits of their works, okay? Well, the fruit of his work wasn't very good. It was just him constantly, like I said, trying to tear down the church. We're supposed to encourage each other, right? Edify each other, pray for each other. And I believe Michelle might be right. He might not have known what he was doing. I know that I saw Milo on the show, and I said, what is he doing on a Catholic show? He might have been raised Catholic, but he was like I used to be. He was an unrepentant member of the church, or whatever you want to call us. Schismatic, you could even say we were excommunicated for a time for the ways that we were living in sin. So, anyways, yeah, I think that there's a lot going on out there, and we must be very careful. So this guy is basically saying he believes that the Nephilim were created so that the devil's army could stand a chance. And I agree with that, because I see the way they treat their families. And these beings, they don't treat their families with love. And anything the Bible says not to do, they go and do. They know what the Bible says, and they literally try to do the opposite. Sit down, you're fine. And so what was the, I wanted to show you guys one more. That's actually a really good relation, but... Okay, and this one says about the book of Enoch, the flood was intended to cleanse the earth of sin and give humankind a fresh start. The problem is we don't necessarily always know what sin means. The Nephilim were a different problem, the problem of corruption, because angels mated with human females. So it was a bad fruit from the get-go, from the jump. God let them live and was tolerant with them until they started eating his people. It also appears to be an attack on false gods like Zeus and company, who took human women against their will. And I know that to be true too. That's how these beings operate. They have infested and taken over my neighborhood. Was it always like this? I believe that certain people, yes, they did know what they were. They knew they were signing off on something. I don't think they maybe knew that they would lose, that they would disappear, basically, and these beings would totally inhabit their body. It's not totally symbiotic. It's only symbiotic because they need our fleshly bodies. And that's also why I don't believe in clones. There's something about the human body, right? And it's blood, I think. Blood is life. There's something about the human body that they need. Clone bodies ain't going to work. And there's a theory on clones that, well, they're making clones to replace all of you with clones. Why would they do that when most people are compliant anyway? Guys, you got to start thinking through these theories that are put through on some of these channels, right? Take them to the next step, like chess. Most of them fall apart after the next 1 or 2 or 3 moves. Therefore, you know it's a false teaching. If you can wrap your mind around it, and if you can, let's say, solve it, then it's not of God, because God is above us and smarter than us, and God does things that we don't always understand. Now, if we get... In my opinion, the disconnect is a real disconnect. It tells us the Bible is not particularly interested in wrapping everything up. So now they go into these different things, and the sea people being Phoenicians. I also believe that that's how some of them survived. Mermaids and stuff like that, I believe those are iterations of fallen angel and Nephilim spirits. And I wanted to show you where it got locked away. Narrative conundrum. Is this it? Okay, this is where it gets locked. In Genesis 6:3, God's decision to remove his spirit from the presence of man seems to be linked to the Nephilim, since it is right between the angels, sons of God, taking humans as wives. Well, taking human wives, not taking them as wives, taking human wives, and the Nephilim that those unions produce. The purpose of the flood was to wipe out the corrupted humanity, which would include the pre-flood Nephilim. While one could suggest that the angels and the Nephilim may have had a serious contribution to the corruptness of mankind, it was not its overall cause. Hold. I also believe this is why the Mormons are so interested in genealogy, but most of all, your DNA. I believe these beings can only inhabit certain other beings. And I do believe that somehow their genetics survived the flood, and they are a part of portions of mankind at this point. And I actually believe that's why we went from using mankind to using humanity. Why is that? Hue means color. Colorful race. humanity one giant colorful race? I don't know, guys, but I know that words have a lot to do with this. The simple answer about the post-flood Nephilim is they're not the same as the pre-flood. Now, this guy says there's two different kinds, okay? And I actually kind of agree with him. Now, on one hand, this guy here, and I'm just going to give you a brief thing, and I can include all these links. This guy who wrote this is severe gaslighting. This was written in 2023. Funny, the things that are being written now and in 2017, 2018, and prior, you're getting a whole lot of gaslighting and a whole lot of new mental disorders. I wonder where that's coming from. Probably because people can now see the demonic energies around here a whole lot more than they used to be able to. So they had to come up with some new mental illnesses for that. They had to come up with some new names. They're good at that. This guy basically says, Jewish tradition is that the Nephilim were the offspring of the angels. There are problems with this interpretation, being that it's based on Jewish tradition rather than biblical text itself. So basically there's pride. He's saying we can't listen to them because they're Jewish, which is hogwash because the whole Old Testament is Jewish. And he's saying because Nephilim was not used but once, that it's only used once right here. It's only used right there because that's when they first were conceived and came into being. Okay? Genealogies is a clue. It tells us who is who. But he is saying that there is one line that when Eve, where does he compares it? Eve saw the fruit, sons of God saw the women. Eve saw the fruit was good, sons saw women were beautiful. Eve took the fruit, sons God took the wives. So, Augustine and the Reformers, Luther and Calvin all agreed that the correct interpretation was that the sons of God referred to the lineage of Seth, while the daughters of man referred to the lineage of Cain. So there are some people saying it's an iteration on a good line and a wicked line. Honestly, I don't necessarily believe this because way back, the Essenes, way back when Enoch was written, back before the Bible was even a thing, people were writing about this spiritual warfare and about these, about certain things that were occurring. I feel like this whole thing is gaslighting. I do not agree with the Luther point of view. If you guys want to discuss that with me, if some of you are Protestant, please feel free. He's saying it makes logical sense that they were strong human beings. Very possible, but they still had the angelic blood in there. So, it can't be avoided at this time. Okay, so this tells you about the Nephilim, the game itself, okay? They have a brief rundown of their product line, Black Moon Rising, a Call of Cthulhu crossover. You know what else I thought was interesting? The guy, and I looked at this, we're going to look at this, but probably in a different video. Some of the guys that wrote this also wrote Arthur Pendragon. And that's also now what Daily Wire is putting out with Brett Cooper is Pendragon. It's like all this stuff that we come across is bubbling to the surface at the same time, just wanting us to find it. And it's like, how do we put it all together? What shape does this puzzle take? This is another one of the game designers. Again, always look at the sources, guys. If you read a book, who published it, who wrote it, transliterate the history of a thing itself. This is one of the creators of the game. I wanted to know what this guy was like in his daily life that made him come up with the concepts in Nephilim. Well, look at this. He's a game designer, but not just a game designer. He's also a publisher and a practitioner of shamanism. He passed away in 2018. How convenient is that? Or is he coming back as somebody else? Because he had lived out that life in that body and had gotten older. I believe, I've read over a little bit of this game now, and it's actually, I think it confirms my belief in the reincarnation theory, that reincarnation does not happen at the body's birth or death. It can happen anytime in between if you have two willing participants who know how to do it. Okay? So I believe we have a lot going on here. Number one, the Nephilim can infiltrate your body and just possess it. Okay? Number two, you can have some of that Nephilim bloodline as a part of you already. The third one is that you would trade spots with them. You would take another body and they would take yours. Again, these guys never live up to their end of the bargain, so I would be very careful if I was you. So, yes, it shows all of his credits here, what else he helped to design. And for all of us who thought that video games weren't pagan or they did not have any type of roots in witchcraft, this person's bibliography right there should be all you need to see. And again, I'm not a superstitionist, you know. Lastly, before we get to the game, and again, the game is not going to take very long because we're not playing it. We're just reading bits of it. If you want to actually play the game, I'm thinking about getting the books that go along with it. It is like a series of books that get more into character development and more into the background story, which is what I'm interested in. But one of the books alone is $60. Like, they're not cheap books. So again, this is very, again, I know that gaming and games, board games, are a part of all of this. I know because of personal experience, because I've tested it, because of the people that play these games and gift them to my children, because of the business cards lying around that I have found. Again, these people are all in cahoots together. Most of them own a business or they hold a place in local government or local police chief or your firefighters. These are all people who are quote unquote good citizens. But they are the Nephilim. We are being run by the fallen. Still, it's never changed since Babylonia. And I know people will disagree with me, and that's fine. You can disagree. But you definitely cannot say at this point, if you've watched this channel, even for just this video, that you were not warned. So here, I thought this was an interesting question with some interesting answers. And it talks about how, you know, the angels which kept not their first estate, they left their own habitation. He hath reserved in everlasting chains under darkness until judgment of the great day. So they will, the actual original fallen ones are chained up. So something else happened, right? The demons that we're dealing with today are allegedly the Nephilim spirits, okay? Now, I might just include this where you guys can find this so you can go over it at your own leisure, okay? Hold please. I wanted to read you a part of that, but it talks about can the Nephilim be redeemed? And I think it's definitely a worthy topic to look into, especially since we don't really know, not everyone here knows who is who. At least I don't. So I'm going to go, some of this is going to be night mode, and some of it's going to be day mode. The daytime mode lets you see the graphics easier. The nighttime mode helps to bring the visuals out, like right there. And so the first thing you see is it says, this game is not real. Yet somebody pointed it out. It tells us that the game itself is not real, but the first thing you see are fallen angel seals and the seal of Saturn. So, very interesting. Nephilim, an occult role-playing game. And if you look at the M, that's a 33 there. See how that kind of looks like a 33? The breath of the flute player, does it belong to the flute? So it's asking you. And again, these are symbiotic relationships. The Nephilim want your body. They don't need your spirit. So where does your spirit go? I bet you they tell you something great, but chances are they're not going to actually live up to their end of the deal. All right, we're going to switch now back just real briefly to the daytime modes. You guys can read along if you want. This is the credits. I'm not going to go over this because I did in the last video. There you have a seal. One of the seals is Solomon, I believe, but he's calling it the seal Saturn. And then this other one, which is obviously Phoenician. I don't know the names of all the seals. I don't want to know that stuff in that way so much. And then you see in this, now this is like a black and white copy of the materials that I found online. I got lucky. But you see, we've got the patterns back there too. And what it looks like, if you put the books together, because I looked at a couple of them, it's making something, right? Like you see, this is part of a machine. And it looks almost like the universe, like those old globes we used to see. I don't know if you've seen them, but back in the day, like the 1800s, there were these old globes, and they would have other rings that went around them, and you could actually figure out where certain things were at certain times of the year, and you would have like that almost like a measuring thing beneath it, like you see here in the image. And then you have down in the right, of course, you have their icon, which is the lion with wings. And I was just looking that up the other day. And there's a name for that kind of beast, but I can't remember. And it says Chaosium. That's their company name, Chaos IOM. Chaosium Orc. So, we get into the first page, and they have this encounter with Duke of Saint Armand, and they give the forwarding to him, or the intro to him, and the forward to him. I read this in the other video, but I'll read just this end part. You guys can read it if you want. Despite the fact that most of us humans hide from this realization, either consciously or not, the world that surrounds us is full of signs that enlighten those who can but read them. Mars is red like blood. The sun shines like gold. The moon follows a cycle like that of women. We can ask ourselves if the likeness indicates a hollow comparison or reveals something that runs strong and deep within us all. For a moment, you can guess at the labyrinth behind the confusion. You may have the foreboding feeling that a significant coincidence hides behind simple chance. You glimpse at a new reality, one that can blind. We cannot help these observations. Nephilim is a result of these explorations. And that was a foreword that this count that they met mysteriously, and he wrote this for them, allegedly. Now here's the contents. If you want to do a screenshot, you can do that. We don't need to look at everything, right? But let's look at what they're interested in. So in the intro, you have the history of the Nephilim, before all and the end of the compromise, whatever that means. Then you get into part 1, past lives, and it gets into all these different eras and ages, right? And the simulacra. I'm horrible at that word. Part 2, incarnation. You have the game system, how it's set up. You have the characters, and then it tells you what their skills are, okay? Combat and injury, again, it tells you how strong an opponent is, what their spells are worth, for example, that type of thing. And it tells you about all these different things, but I think it's interesting that they themselves highlight history, past lives, character creation, incarnation, combat and injury, reincarnation, okay? Part 3 is initiation, the magic fields, occult science, sorcery, alchemy. Part 4, the exoteric, not esoteric, exoteric. So, kind of weird, right? What are we at time-wise? 53. All right. So I'll do this for another 15, 20 minutes, maybe a half hour, and then if we have to do another dive into it, we can. No biggie. So here we have Nephilim. Now, if you see in the back, we've got some interesting little characters again. Can you guys see? Okay, in the left-hand corner there, you see how his, is that a tail? I think it's 2 tails. They're like woven in almost a Celtic knot. Hold on. There it is. And let's make it bigger for you guys. I'd really like to see some of this. It's dark because it's, like I said, it's a copy that I found. But I'll try and find better images of the artwork itself, because it is really in depth, and there's a lot of symbology happening back there. You see there's a steel in the left-hand corner too, because you see the circle, and you see the little guy above it, and then you see the triangle here, the number 4, and that I think that's a gargoyle. Okay, so it's telling people, role players and readers of fantasy, you've already approached the occult. You may have encountered it unwillingly. Your understanding begins by admitting that already you know such words as magic, alchemy, or Kabbalah. With Nephilim, we invite you to go further. We invite you to cross this threshold of fantasy in order to discover the hidden side of our everyday universe. Hold, please. Why am I not promoting this game to be played if I'm reading it to you? There's a difference. Hi, nice to see you always. God bless you. I'm glad you're here. Why am I reading this if I'm not promoting that you play it? Why on earth would I do such a thing if this is occult literature and material? Because you need to know what's happening on the other side. We cannot begin to be prepared if we do not know what the other side is doing. There used to be rules of engagement for war. There used to be specific times. That's why they had drummer boys and people that would blow the bugles. I mean, it was civilized as it could be. We need to know what the enemy's doing. They're putting stuff out there like this as games. Again, I tell you, do not play. It's enough to know that it's out there and these things are happening. I'm okay if churchy Christians say that I'm insane or crazy. I don't care if my husband points at me and says that I'm nuts. It doesn't bother me anymore. That stuff doesn't bother me. Is it wearying? Yes. Am I tired of it? Yes. We're allowed to express frustration without that meaning that we want to delete ourselves or somebody else, right? We're allowed to have our emotions, but you're seeing every agenda right now out there is anti-human. They don't want any human emotion, which we should be in control of our emotion. I'm not saying to go crazy, out there hysterical. But there's no emotion. Anything that's slightly feminine has to be killed, basically. Why are we seeing this attack on the feminine? Because Mary brought Christ here. And as much as Protestants and fundamentalists want to tell you that Mary should not be worshipped, which they're right, you don't worship her. But we do honor her because we're told to honor our mothers and fathers. And I'm pretty sure that Christ is not going to be happy with anyone who's badmouthed his mother while he was away. So I'm just getting that out there. I don't personally care if anyone calls me crazy. If this equips you guys with the information and knowledge that you need to understand that this is a spiritual battle, you need to pray. You need to make your vessel, your temple, as clean and as holy as possible. Exactly. People thought Noah was crazy too. Einstein, they labeled him as crazy. Joan of Arc, she was crazy. Once the church had used her enough and they weren't able to control her, she was crazy because she heard her angel voices, which I believe. I don't hear audible voices. I listen to the voice in my heart. And if you don't understand that, I'm sorry that you don't understand it. But just because you don't understand a thing doesn't make that other person crazy. Okay? So people can say what they want. I know these things are real. I know that I have dealt with them in my daily life. I know that they are all around me. I know this. I don't need to guess. I don't need anyone to tell me. I don't need to, I've already done all that, right? You guys have been with me every step of the way. The more that you deny these things are happening too, because of the law of resistance, the more you're going to pull this stuff. Maybe not even that. It might just be God saying, okay, you said never. I'm going to show you that that's just not true, young lady. Remember, God knows it's not going to kill us to discipline us. All good parents discipline. We've got a whole boatload of people, an ark full of people out there right now, 20 arks full, if we have that many people left anymore, who are not good parents. They don't want to be good parents. They do everything the Bible says not to do, and they do it on purpose. So while Michelle may be right, some people know not what they do at a certain point. Most, if not all of these people, gave their consent to operate with these things in a symbiotic relationship. I know because I've witnessed it. And again, you don't have to believe me. I put my life in danger by doing this. But that doesn't matter to me. You guys have to know, okay? With Nephilim, we invite you to go further, okay? You will discover a twilight world where alchemists bend over their alchemical ovens, Kabbalists trace their pentacles, and magicians decipher their grimoires for the hidden spells within. This world is concealed behind the respectable facade of wealthy neighborhoods, non-profit associations, flourishing businesses, and historical monuments, which seem to be completely open to public security. They were giving us clues there, and I hope y'all paid attention because it's all stuff I've said before about who's behind this and where you can find them in your own neighborhood. Business owners, check. Cops on the payroll, check. Local government, check. Somebody who has access to local IT departments in local government, Check. Do you see where this goes? Everybody we know, every family probably has one or two of these, especially considering most of the blended families happening out there. And again, I'm a pacifist. I'm not telling you to go out there and harm anybody. In fact, I'm against all of that. Be aware. Don't let yourself be pulled into these pits and snares of the fowler, man. They're just waiting to ambush you, and I know because it happened to me. I got very careless. I had been pretty safe for a long period of time. Nothing had bothered my life. Well, of course the devil don't bother you. He's already got you. Why is he going to bother you if he's with you? You're with him already. He doesn't start bothering you until you start wanting the true creator God. If you say that you are a God follower right now and you are not facing some type of spiritual war, and by spiritual war, it is very physical. It could be somebody coming after your house, somebody coming after your family, somebody coming after your entrepreneurship or small business. Okay? It could be your car breaking down every second or third day when you need it to get to a special place. It could be your health, your child's health. Those things are physical manifestations of the spiritual battle. I'm encouraging you all to pray against these things. Christ told us to pray for our enemies, yes. Yes. But pray against these things. Pray against the spirit of the Nephilim. Pray against the spirit of violence. Pray against the spirit of Sodomy. Pray against the spirit of a thing. Okay? That way you are blameless. You're not asking God to curse anyone specifically. You're just saying, I don't want this spirit in my life or my community. I don't want this spirit in my life or my community. This is where consent comes in. And I tell you right now, they are gaining consent to your family, your dwelling place, your house, even your finances. They're gaining your consent because everybody is complacent and nobody's paying attention. And this has been happening since at least 2017. They've been getting ready and primed for what's coming. And we are outnumbered. True God followers, children of the Most High, are rare anymore. Because some of us are gone and a lot have fallen away. But it doesn't matter what type of numbers they have, right? The light outshines the darkness. You cannot have a shadow without the light. But you can have the light without shadow. You don't need a shadow for the light. The darkness needs the light. Please pay attention to these nuggets because it's not all from me. I let the Holy Spirit flow at all times anymore. And what comes out is what comes out. Okay, so it's basically telling you that you have these things surrounding you. This is a world of secrets. Secret societies wage unseen wars against the Nephilim and one another for control of the magic fields. Hold, please. And let's look at that too. This is an entirely different scenario than what the church is telling us. The church is, well, I know the Catholic Church tells you, and so does a lot of people on YouTube, that Freemasonry is bad, wicked, and evil, that secret societies are bad, wicked, and evil, that the Templars were bad, wicked, and evil. First of all, I don't make blanket statements. I'm not going to say any one group is entirely evil. I don't care who that group is. I don't do that. That's not this channel. If you're looking for that, go to another channel. I don't do this for money, quite obviously. Sorry, I had to close that window. So, there we go. So they're telling us that these secret societies are after them. And this is what I've told you, when it's not just black and white. It's not just good guys versus bad guys. We all have the ability to be a bad guy. Okay? This is a spiritual war about principles, about honor, about morals. A lot of us have lost that in this time, and I praise God that I had the type of father I had, because he gave me the backbone that I have. I didn't get anything of what I have right now from my mother. This all came from my dad and my Heavenly Father, obviously. But I take it very seriously because I love you. I love you guys. I love you. Like, I can't even say it enough. I love you. I'm just not wanting to be close to people right now because I don't want to be close to people. It hurts too bad. I don't want touched. It hurts. Trauma has negative effects too. If it wasn't for the trauma, I never would have woken back up and repented. But it also has what's the word I'm looking for? It's supplanted some weird affectations in me regarding social aspects of life. I don't want touched anymore. I used to be a hugger. I don't want hugged no more. Don't touch me, right? Like, I'm just not the way I used to be. And that's unfortunate, but sometimes that's for the best. God needs to rebuild us. So this is another perspective telling us that those secret societies are in fact waging war against the Nephilim. And we're told that God hates the Nephilim pretty much. He tried to flood the earth. We're pretty much told it was because of them. Now, that was hidden. The book of Enoch was hidden for a long time. There is another way of thinking that blames humanity. And you see that more now. You see condemnation more in churches today, telling us how wicked we are. And I think that's also the wrong course. And I think it's done by design. Okay, I've given everyone enough time to like screenshot that if they want. Now, here it is. It says what they're trying to do is reach Agartha. The Nephilim retains its own personality, remembers the skills that it had acquired during its previous incarnations, and learns how to use the skills of its simulacrum. Basically, it's human. That's what it's calling us. We're containers for this thing. Then begins the metamorphosis. Every Nephilim has already lived through this in its past. In metamorphosis, the body of the simulacrum changes to become the non-human, which each Nephilim truly is. This change of the human body is just the beginning of the long quest which Nephilim have pursued for centuries, the quest for Agartha. Didn't I just do a video about how people's bodies and faces were changing? And I didn't think that it was because of plastic surgery. Like, some of the women literally look like they swallowed another human and their skin is poofing. Like, I don't know. Everybody's like, it's plastic surgery, but I don't think so, man. There's something else going on there. They wouldn't all change at the same time, right? I can see all 60-year-olds starting to get droopy at the same time or whatever, but you wouldn't see in the same month and year a whole bunch of females of a variety of ages looking poofed up and stretchy. It reminds me, oh my gosh, what? Evil Dead. The scene of Evil Dead when his girlfriend comes back. He looks kind of like Miss Piggy, but evil. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. That's the scene that comes to mind. Okay, so in those times when men grew and multiplied after Adam had left Eden, the Nephilim roamed the earth. Genesis 6:4. Hold up. Hold, please. That's not... Yeah, hold on. We're going to have a problem here. Okay, let's go back to Genesis. What is going on? We know that in 6:6... Is it 6:6? I don't know. Let's check. And when men began to multiply upon the earth, and then the daughters were born. The sons of God, seeing that the daughters of men were beautiful, took to themselves wives from all whom they chose. And God said, my spirit shall not remain in man forever. He is flesh, and so his days shall be 120 years. Yeah, man, I want my full 120 years, please. Now giants were upon the earth. So what does that say? In those times when men grew and multiplied, after Adam had left Eden, the Nephilim. What iteration is he reading from? It doesn't say nothing about Adam leaving the garden. What? Hold up. What version of the Bible are they reading? Huh. Also, afterward, the son of man. It doesn't say nothing about Adam. I don't know what version that is. Okay. That's different. Alright, so it tells you what a role-playing game is. What's a role-playing game? Now watch this. This is interesting. Nephilim is a role-playing game. Its aim is to get the players to bring an imaginary character to life. What do you suppose would happen if I started playing this game and I started dreaming somebody up in my head? Do you think the Nephilim, if there was a demonic spirit around me, do you think it might oblige me? I think it's very possible. Its aim is to get the players to bring an imaginary character to life within the shared environment of the group imagination. They make it sound so fun. But Nephilim is a unique role-playing game, for it asks you to play the part of an immaterial entity which takes possession of a human body. You are a Nephilim that embodies itself within the flesh of a simulacrum. Here's my last theory, and I have not explored this one a lot because, frankly, I don't want to. I don't know how it would make me feel. The last thing is, what if we are all the fallen angels, all of us? Not angels itself, like we are progeny of the fallen angels. What if that's how the earth became populated in the first place? What if the fruit, follow me here, we're playing what if. What if the fruit was fornication, period? No matter who it was with. Maybe God did not want them to do that yet because they were like children themselves. Maybe God did not give them the okay yet to procreate. Even if it's not true, it's a good exercise. Why is this a good exercise? I'm not talking about the game, mind you. I'm talking about in your own head, wondering whose bloodline you are. This is how you should treat your neighbor. You don't know who they are or what they are. None of us knows here. So we should make the effort to treat each other the same. To treat you with the same respect I want myself to be shown, right? Because we simply don't know. But again, would I recommend playing this game? Absolutely not, because I don't think it's a game, and I think our minds and our hearts and our souls are really skewed on what is right and wrong anymore. We are rose up in Babylon, and most of the things that we are taught, if not all of them, are anti-biblical and allegedly anti-God because they're anti-biblical. And people go, oh, well, you're just no fun. Man, I played softball. I could go out there today and catch if somebody wanted to catch with me. I don't care how bad my back is. I'll go try. Like, people just, I don't think they understand. Those of us who are doing this and speaking out in this time, it's not because it's fun for us. It's not because it makes us beloved to our neighborhoods. It's not because it does anything good for us here in the here and now. It's because we love you, our brothers and sisters. That's why we do it. But is that really a bad thing to try for a moment? Try seeing things from a fallen angel perspective. Are these humans now your family? Do you love them? Are you able to love? Because it says in Scripture, don't ye know ye are little gods, ye shall judge the very angels. Okay? So that we're obviously not all of the same clan here. But we're also mixed at this point. Then we may as well be the same clan. And I think we fight a common enemy. And unfortunately, a part of that enemy is within our own hearts. So it's interesting to look at it from that way. Okay, now this tells you how to play role-playing games, how the skills work, and all that stuff. Normally, I would say none of this matters for this video. However, I will say that the Nephilim are very into numbers, so anything that has anything to do with numbers and names, you should pay attention to. Even if it's a part you don't think you have to read, if it's talking about numbers or names, you should read it, okay? Just because this is how they give truth out, unfortunately. Now we see here another image. Let me change the reading mode. I don't know if that's better or worse. Again, I would love to see the full color images. The book being $60, that's just not, I don't spend that type of money on myself. I don't do it. Not even for you guys, not right now. But if something changes, I will absolutely grab it and at least show you the artwork that's in it. So this talks about metric conversion. 1 meter equals 40 inches equals 3.3 feet. Huh. Yeah, they're all from across the pond, so they all write in different. Okay, so this is where you get into the actual. And again, you have dragons back there, and I'm turning my phone upside down like it's gonna help you. You have these little totems. They look like almost dials on a wheel or a clock. You have these little totem faces, and one looks like the sun, but all the other ones are creepy looking. You see that face a couple of times. The one on the bottom left. He's throughout. He's in a fountain a little later on, I think. Unique Nephilim factors. Okay, so you know the words that are being said. Ka. Ka in its 5 forms is the magic energy in all Nephilim. These 5 components of each Nephilim give it its personality and originality. One of the elements dominates the others at the player's choice. This determines which type of creature the Nephilim will turn into. And that's another thing. Allegedly, these things are shapeshifters, okay? When you hear about witches and their familiars, I believe that the true witches, what the Bible is talking about, they're all from this non-human bloodline. They're not of God, right? So if we're talking about something else that wants to be God, something that wants to be God but is not God, but it does have its principalities and powers. In a way, it is a little g God. In a way, here on earth, we have the yin and yang, the good God fighting the wicked God, the God of life and love and light fighting the God of decay, death, and dirt. I don't know. I was going for another D word. Hold, please. I'm going to grab a little drink of my water. Core water is really good for you. Balancing your pH on the inside is very important. I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice. Alkaline is really good too, the alkaline water. Okay, so when they're talking about Ka, you know it has 5 forms. And it's the magic energy in all Nephilim, okay? What are the 5 forms? We've got air, earth, water, fire, and moon. I think that's dope. Like, I love the moon. I can't, it is so weird. Because normally, if you think of Vitruvian Man, that's the thing that Da Vinci made. You know, Okay, let me show you. I might as well just show you. Oh. Vetruvian. Vitruvian Man. There he is. This guy. So, this guy is actually a pentacle. Now, they want to tell you that it's wicked, art is... I'm not going to get into that. You guys know I know my art history. I'm not one of those people that points at everything and says that's wicked. Again, there's plenty of channels for that. I want to give you truth, maybe encourage you to be autodidactic, educate myself a little bit as I'm doing this with you guys. So this is Vitruvian Man. If you notice, what does it look like? The shape of a star inside of a circle, which is a what? A pentacle. If you turn it upside down, it's a pentagram. The original one was the Seal of Solomon. So it's not wicked, right? There is no... Symbols are neutral. I'll just say that. So we have, in Vitruvian Man, you will have earth, air, fire, water for the limbs, and the head is spirit. That's the 5th element, quote unquote. So it's basically telling us here that Nephilims don't have spirit. They have, which is weird because if you look up the word meek, it means spiritless, and it says the meek shall inherit the earth. The spiritless. I've been thinking about that one for months. I'm going to have to read it in its context and figure it out maybe, but that one's a little scary. I won't lie. It's a little frightening. But you have earth, air, fire, water, and moon. Those are the Kas. The game also includes other types of Ka, including Black Moon Ka, Solar Ka, Black Sun, and Black Sun Ka. Each elemental component, or Ka element, affects a physical characteristic. Now, that's how demons are presented in the Essene Books of Peace. Each demon has a domain over the physical body of a human being. So if you have an illness in one area, that is that demon giving you problems, and chances are it's only because you transgressed and gave it authority to do so. If you repent real quick, chances are you'll get well. Again, I'm not a doctor. This is biblical information that is pretty much well known. The Bible says sin causes death. I'm not saying it. That's what the Bible says. I'll take a note there out of some preachers' handbooks. I'm not saying it, but the Bible says sin causes death. Nothing else but sin. And in fact, to tell a baby that like they're gonna die someday is sinful. Like I don't know. Nobody ever told us we had a choice, right? Like, hey, you don't have to die if you don't sin. Well, what is sin? Well, lying, stealing, cheating. Okay, those ones are kind of easy. But there are a couple hidden ones that people don't seem to talk about. There he is. There's this dude. Okay, so we've got this weirdo here. Can we get a better image of him? I'm sorry, guys. There we go. Nah, it doesn't get any better. I'll try to find you guys some better images, but this is actually a fountain. I don't know where it's at. But it's, remember in the Christmas story, you had the ghost of Christmas past with the fruit on his head and all that stuff? It's a spirit of the harvest, I want to say. I can't recall exactly. Okay, so the shape is called the metamorphosis. The Nephilim will change into another being, okay, from human. So it says, each elemental component or Ka element affects a physical characteristic in the eventual physical body, which the Nephilim will change into. This shape, called metamorphosis, is characterized by 5 physical transformations. Each of those transformations is measured on a scale of 0, which is human, normal, to 20, complete transformation. The sum of the 5 add up between 0 and 100. When an individual transformation reaches 16 or more points, the change becomes difficult to conceal from humans who are not even trained in seeing Ka. That would be an interesting note to make up. So those who are trained in seeing Ka, basically, and what is Ka? It is your spirit energy. So you could take that to mean the next step might mean aura. So those trained in seeing auras or spirits, even those not trained will see them. That's interesting. Again, you get these little bits, and oftentimes it's what's not said, or you have to go somewhere else to find it. Just these little things. When 2 or more transformations are that developed, the change is even harder to conceal. At this stage, the Nephilim are often called metamorphs. The metamorphoses are essential to role-playing a Nephilim. They characterize each Nephilim to act in agreement with its element. And that's important. That's why I tell you, your head, your mind, your spirit, those are all the same thing, should be aligned or in alignment with your mouth, your tongue, the word of your tongue, your voice. Okay? Those are all the same thing pretty much. And those two should be in line with your heart. That's why heart has ear. You can hear with your heart. You can trust your heart. But listen to your true heart, not a heart of lust, not a heart of selfishness. Oh, that person's going away. They're going to leave me. That's not love, okay? Love is doing what's best for the other individual, even if that means saying goodbye to them. That's what love is. These beings, some, at least most, the ones I've ran into, they're very loyal, but it's not due to love. It isn't love that I haven't met one yet that feels love, that I would say feels love. So they have to act in agreement with its element, and that's why I tell you to have your head, your thoughts in alignment with your words, in alignment with your actions or your deeds. If you are out of alignment with your own self, you're in error, okay? You're going to lead yourself astray, because one side of you is going to go one way, the other side's going to want to go the other way. A man of 2 minds is imbalanced in all his ways, okay? Okay, so for example, a fire Nephilim of the jinn. And they're even using, they've mixed up, and again, you're going to see this a lot in the days to come. They're mixing up Muslims with Christians here, or at least with Nephilims. And that's very interesting. You should ask yourself why the Muslims have so much in common with Christians. Now they say, Tate will say that we're weak today, that we don't do this, we don't do that. They are trying to instigate us. Okay, they are trying to instigate us into a physical fight that we will never win. This must be a spiritual battle. We must use our brains, our wits, our sense of humor when needed to encourage ourselves and our neighbors and our friends and our family. But this is all spiritual. But why do you think the Muslims have the same things that we do? They're just missing Christ. They're just missing Christ. They just don't quite have Christ. Okay? This is a set. And it's basically choose your own venture, sandbox adventure. You can choose which way you're going to go or which adventure you're going to have. But in the end, they're all going to pretty much have the same couple of places to go. So we've got to walk this out in a certain type of way and not allow that to happen to ourselves, our friends, our families. But it's very interesting that they are mixing they're mixing Muslim words or Islamic, whatever, wording with Jewish mysticism, because that's where the Nephilim come from too, is Jewish mysticism. Kabbalah, they've already mentioned that. And what did I tell you guys in a few videos ago? That the reason I feel like I can't pin down the AC, I can't quite see him yet, he's kind of foggy, is number one, he is not the body he's inhabiting. Number two, he's not even the body that he's showing to the media. That is not what his face actually looks like. I told you this. If you were rich and famous, would you give the press pictures of what you really look like and what your family really look like and what your cars and houses really look like? Even those magazines, even most of the shows for Pimp My Crib and Pimp My Ride, they'll tell you those weren't our houses. They don't want you knowing where they actually live. Because there are crazy people out there who do want to do harm to people. The smart thing, the wise thing, if I can think like that, I'm sure these big banksters and billionaires think the same thing. It's just good strategy. And if you've never read Tao's The Art of War, you should read it. And I haven't even read the whole thing, but what I did read taught me a whole lot. We can't be bottled up in a Christian bubble or an Italian bubble or whatever your ethnicity background might be. We have to be willing to at least know what else is out there to A, protect ourselves from wickedness, and B, so that we have more information and we can make educated decisions, moving forward, and not decisions made out of fear, right? Oh my, and they know that. They know that when people are in fear, they make bad decisions. Why do you think they want everybody in fear? Look at everything in the media you're seeing right now, guys. Every agenda, all of them. They're not just anti-love. They're not just anti-life. They are anti-human life. Anti-love, anti-light, anti-life, anti-human life. That's what every agenda is right now. You have got to see that what we are fighting is not human. It is not the same as us, meaning it does not have the same heart as us. It does not love like us. It is not like us. Not everyone has the same heart that we have. I know you've seen that meme. I've seen it a million times. Okay. So, it starts telling us, elf metamorphosis. Okay, hold please. I'm going to look real quick. History. Let's go back to the beginning. Oops. Sorry. I don't know what does that. Get out of there. All right, let's go to the table of contents for anyone that may have missed it. How do I get rid of that? Why do I always forget? Oops. It won't go away. 128. I should end. Do you guys think I should end this now, or do you want to listen for another half hour? You guys let me know. Because, I mean, I don't have any time clock to keep. I have other things I could do, and I don't want to keep you guys forever. The rest of it, since everyone now has a background of what the Nephilim may or may not be, the rest of it will go through pretty quickly. So if you want to save it for tomorrow or the next day in a live stream, I can do that. Why don't we do that? Let's go ahead and break here. And now and then the next live stream, we can really get into the actual, how they're doing all this. And let me know in the comments if you guys want to bounce around or if you want to go in order, because I really want to just go to the reincarnation page and see if it matches up with what I've been shown here about reincarnation. And I know there's a lot of stuff in here, guys, that you're like, well, I've never experienced none of that. I can't relate to this. In this video, there's something for everybody. And the main point is always to tell you to treat others as you would want to be treated. And I know it's corny and I know it's cliche, but it's true. And don't allow yourself to be pulled down in the muck and the mire. When you start gossiping about your neighbors, that's sinful. You're already on that slippery slope. And it gets easy after that. This is why I don't do a lot of targeting videos. Do I believe the phenomenon exists? Absolutely. But again, groups of people can be nasty. The rainbow hijackers as a group, are nasty. Now, again, I'm not blanket statement all of the people in the group, but that one sect is a nasty radical group. And I've dealt with that a lot with the Mandela effect community and the targeting community, guys. It's like every group that I try to help or I want to like shine a light on their issue and try to help them out ends up not being a godly thing. Okay, it's like I have radar for these beings. And I'm going to tell you right now, some of them are on YouTube. I can't say a whole lot because, again, some of them I like and I don't want to out them, but there's a reason you very rarely see them outside, or if they are outside, there's a real funny camera angle. I believe these beings are still walking amongst us. Some of them are NBA players, NBA stars. Most people know that NBA stars, that's a Masonic group, and they are very into magic. And NBA stars are not just basketball professionals, they're magicians. They're sorcerers. That's what they do. They're also very big. Do you ever notice that? They're very big, right? They're pretty tall. There are a few that I've noticed already on YouTube because I seem to have radar for them. I don't even know what else to call it at this point because every person I try to help her, I'm like, wow, they give good information. After watching them long enough, I'm like, oh my God, this person. And then you watch them and you realize they're never around other people. You never see them film around other people. And if they're outside, they're very careful with how they're filming. And if they're inside, there's no windows and no reflections. Why? Why? Because they're not all human. And some of them you watch right here on YouTube. I'm going to end this video. Tomorrow we will, or the next live stream, we can get into each section. But I'm really big on the history part, the reincarnation part. And I want to know if they have any, I want to know what their weaknesses are, and that's why I'm looking at this game. If you guys can, let's make this a group project. I'm real big on that too. Anyone that wants to share information, please continue sharing. They will be included in upcoming videos. I have one where I'm going to use a screenshot of somebody's reply on Dion's channel because it was just so long, but it was a really in-depth answer that I want you guys to see. So I have a few uploads coming as well. So just, pay attention to the channel. This is kind of what I do. This is my job now. Hopefully you guys are my good fruits and you will go out there and treat others as you want to be treated, but you will also be observant and mindful of what you're doing in your daily activities and why you're doing them, right? But I told you a while ago when all this started and we were seeing all them weird videos from the celebrities and the toilet paper and the poo emojis everywhere, I was telling you this was not human. That what we are facing is not a human threat. It's all very anti-human. And if you look at all the things that have happened, they're very juvenile. Like, stay in your houses. No gathering. No, it's all very juvenile stuff. None of it's actually, you know what I mean? I don't even know how to explain that. But none of it is actually harmful in and of itself, right? But it's, I want you to go against God's rules, so you're not allowed to gather, no fellowshipping. Cover your faces, they're the image of God, right? Cover your faces. None of us have, our teeth were knocked out per the perfunctory psalm. Cover our faces. Cover your faces, it's the breath of God. It's all very anti-human, and I hope you see that. All right, I'm going to wind this up. I love you guys so much. Have a blessed day. Watch the channel. Sorry, I did have to go through background information for this so other people understand. I don't intend on every video being this long from now on. We just have some new people here, so I have to go over some things to make sure that they know what we're talking about, right? Just the way to be. All right, guys, I love you. More soon. Watch the channel. There'll be a few uploads. Have a blessed day. Oh my gosh, it's 1:33.